1 o'clock, and I want to honor your time today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Tracy Wenson, and I just wanted to thank you for joining me today for our webinar series. Although I've got you all on mute and you won't be able to, you don't have your camera option on, you will be able to use your question and answer or your chat icon to send questions through, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of the webinar. I also wanted to share that Amanda Hunter is joining us today. She's kind of behind the scenes, making sure that the webinar runs smoothly from behind the scenes, and she'll be taking note of the questions and making sure that I see all of those. So thank you for your support, Amanda. And I also wanted to share that I wanted to let everybody know that Greystone is going to be rolling out a monthly real-time resources webinar moving forward. And you should have received a survey. It's just a quick, short survey with 3 questions on it. It should have arrived by email yesterday. We had sent one the day prior also. So be on the lookout for that. It's just 3 short questions, as I mentioned before. We want to find out, what time of day, kind of a little bit, get your input on the content and format of our monthly seminars moving forward. So we realize that people are starting to go back to the office. If you have been working from home, and probably either happening now, mid-June, towards the end of June, our campuses will be opening up to visitors more than likely. And we just wanted to be cognizant of your time. So that's why we're going to move the webinars to once a month. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned before, my name is Tracy Wenson, and I'm a senior manager at Greystone. And I joined Greystone about a year and a half ago, and I work with sales and marketing teams across the country, and I just assist them in reaching their sales and occupancy goals. I also work with blue sky projects, starting in priority, leading them into conversion, and so on, all the way into construction phase, fill up, and then to stabilization. So when I came on with Greystone, I bring 27 years of experience in senior living with me. Prior to Greystone, I worked for one senior living community in the Midwest called John Knox Village. Prior to that, I worked in sales and management, and I hold a Bachelor of Marketing as well as a Bachelor of Business Administration from the University of Central Missouri. So that's a little bit about me and my background. I did want to share today the reason I picked the topic of the power of testimonials. During my career in senior living, I've been privileged to receive, in 27 years, hundreds of testimonials from residents that I've helped learn more about their senior living options. So between the residents and their family members, the staff that I've worked with, all of those folks have just left a huge stamp on my heart. I've been really blessed knowing that I had some small part in making a difference in their lives. Just like all of you experience, it's what kind of gives us purpose. And I can say every day, I love to wake up and I still love what I do after 27 years. So that's why I picked this topic. So when you think about testimonials and how powerful they are, really when you think about a testimonial, it's really just a formal statement that is testifying to someone's character and their qualifications. So it's really an affirmation that you or your community is performing well at providing those services that you promised your prospect. And testimonials can come from a variety of people and a variety of sources. So typically, when we look at senior living communities, testimonials will come from a resident or a family member, a staff member, and even better, professional influencers, people like doctors, financial planners, realtors, and attorneys. So I've got a question for you. When you think about making a major purchase, who do you prefer to buy from? Someone you know? have a relationship with, or are you comfortable buying from a stranger? And I would say probably for most of us, we put a lot of weight behind a recommendation from someone that we know and that we trust, whether it's a family member or a friend, whoever that might be, because we have a relationship with them. So their endorsement or recommendation really has experience behind it. It's pretty powerful. People tend to listen and then to follow advice from people they trust and people we respect. So when you think about testimonials, there are so many different ways that you can display testimonials. You can use quotes, you can use social media posts, you can use case studies, and with case studies, you can use little tidbits and then tie them back to the full case study on a blog post. You can use them in Facebook posts. You can even use video testimonials where you can actually hear a voice and see a face. And even interviews can be a really powerful way to reinforce positive messages and thoughts about your senior living community. So let's explore some of those ways that I just kind of mentioned. The first one is quotes. And using quotes, quotes are typically accompanied by a picture of the person so that you can establish even more trust because of that photo. Because think about a photo. Usually there's smiling or laughing, and that photo really gives a distinct impression that whoever you're displaying in that picture, it might be residents, they're happy, they're approachable. That picture evokes a lot of emotions. But I do want to point out that even if, because I'm sure you've experienced this, some residents are willing to give you a testimonial, but they say, oh, no, don't put my picture on there. I'm sure you've had residents tell you that. You can still build trust with a quote. So don't shy away if you just have quotes as a testimonial. You'll want to, when you're using quotes for testimonials, no matter who it's from, you want to really be able to represent your entire community really well. And what I mean by that is you'll want to have quotes from your single residents as well as couples when displaying your testimonials, because it's really great if you have a photo and you can even show diversity that way. So, but another way to emphasize if you only have quotes for your testimonial is to be able to add subtitles. You can say something to the effect of, in residents' own words, how you see on the screen here in bold, and it really will stand out on your website or Facebook or in your blogs. So I am going to read this quote to you from the couple quote from Bill and Sharon Northville. And I promise you, I'm not going to read all the quotes that are going to be displayed on the screen today, but I'm doing this to show you how effective even just using words can be. So the quote from Bill and Sharon Northville says, "It's important to make the decision sooner rather than later. We visited other places, but knew once we saw all XY Village has to offer that this was the only place for us. There's so much warmth here and so many ways to connect with people. We know our family is thankful. They don't have to worry about our future care. This is our home now." And we would tell anyone that it's a far cry from a community where just old people live. When you think about the words that I just read from the couple that gave this testimonial, they're really talking about and testifying and addressing all of the typical objections that we hear on a routine basis. So hearing that in a testimonial form, all the positives to overcome those objectives, it can really still be very, very effective. Then when you use pictures with that quote, oh my gosh, it's so impactful. Look at the picture here with those bright smiling faces, and they're laughing. I mean, the picture just evokes feelings and emotions of, hey, they look like they're having fun. They look really nice. Maybe if I moved there, I bet they would allow me to, meet them and be nice to me. So the pictures really just bring that quote to life and allow it to evoke emotions instead of just reading words on a page. And then when you use quotes from family members to share positive thoughts about your community, that really speaks volumes, because you think about the positive praise that that child is giving. You know, they're saying how much they love that their parent moved to your senior living community. And without even saying the words, just having their loved one be in a community and they're saying, I'm so glad they're here. That's the precious, probably one of the most important people in their lives. That testimonial alone helps to crush all the decade-old myths that are out there about senior living communities. You know, I'm glad my parents are in the community versus staying in their home. We hear that all, you know, we have to overcome that objection all the time. Or, you know, it kind of crushes that myth about senior living communities being a big old nursing home. When you've got a child saying, I'm so glad my parents are here, it really speaks volumes, and it's pretty impactful. Quotes from family, I would say, are just priceless, and they go a long way in debunking the myths about senior living, just by seeing their smiling faces and giving that affirmation. And then it's also effective to use quotes about staff. It's really helpful when we have a variety of testimonials that focus not only on the resident, but the staff too. And the reason for that is because it really helps you to round out your story of why living in a senior living community encourages that strong sense of community. Look, when you look at these pictures and you see staff and residents and even family in there, it really helps to paint that picture, paint that story through a picture that it's not just resident and staff. It looks like, I mean, that looks like a family there. You know, it's an extended family. So those friendships between resident staff end up creating a community feeling of happiness and belonging also. So they're very effective and kind of round out your story. Also, using quotes from professionals. You know, think about a professional, whether it's a doctor or an attorney or a financial advisor. They bring with them trust and credibility. And it's because they're in a profession that required some extra education. They've had time to form a relationship with your prospect, typically a long-term relationship. So think about the prospects that have said to you, oh, well, I want to talk to my financial advisor before I make a decision. And guess what? If that financial advisor says, nope, I don't think that's a good idea, that prospect is going to listen to them. So quotes from you know, professional influencers really, really matter, because your prospect puts a lot of faith in their answers. So make sure that you establish solid relationships with the professionals that, you know, have a relationship with your prospects. And don't hesitate to ask if they would provide you a testimonial, you know, supporting your community. It really will go a long way in helping to paint a very positive picture and round out that storytelling. So we've just kind of reviewed the people, all the different variety of people that are involved in displaying testimonials. So I want to talk a little bit more about the different sources that you can use also effectively with testimonials. And one of those is using social media posts. And they just allow a really extremely convenient way to get testimonials. And they're very easy. All you're doing is pulling that screenshot from a Facebook post or a Twitter update, and you have instant proof that your residents and your staff are happy with your senior living community. So once you get those, make sure that you are keeping your customer engaged with your channels by posting regularly on Facebook, and then encourage your residents to like your page, follow your Facebook page, as well as invite their friends and family to do that. And then in addition, encourage them to tell you about their experience with your community. And before you know it, those testimonials and the interaction on Facebook, you'll have a nice little network and be able to paint a positive picture to a lot more people in a very quick period of time. And then when you add video testimonials to your social media posts, it really just elevates it and brings it up another level. This particular example is an example from a community I work with in Kentucky, and it provides instant proof that residents and family members and staff are happy with the senior living community. In this example, even while practicing social distancing, a granddaughter was able to celebrate her grandmother's 93rd birthday thanks to the Kentucky team's life enrichment director. Her name was Amanda, who was able to set up a virtual visit between the grandmother and the granddaughter. And they were able to celebrate this special occasion, even when everybody was sheltering in place. So lots of good feel-goods here in this example. With video testimonial, it can really help make it stand out and make it impressionable. And the reason for that is because with a video, you're seeing as well as hearing an actual person and a voice. And that helps to establish not only trust, but likability. Another example, you can record messages that a prospect or resident family member might have left on your voicemail, and you can share those. You can share them with staff. It might be a thankful family member who is really thankful for how you've been handling, keeping your residents engaged during shelter in place during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it just helps to spread positivity. So you can share these resident and staff testimonials on your internal resident portals, if you have that, as well as you can share it on social media. And that way you can document the positive things that are happening, at your community during a crisis. And it doesn't have to be during a crisis. You're just documenting the positive things that are going on in your community. It's a great way to continue to spread positivity, not only amongst your residents, but you're also showing and displaying prospects just how much effort you'll put into taking care of them if and when they move to your community. So video testimonials are a great way to use. Another way to display testimonials is through the use of case studies. And case studies really lend a lot of credibility because they're from reliable sources, and they really complement the message that you're trying to share with your prospects. With case studies, you can just take small sections of the particular case study and showcase that little bit on a testimonial page, and you'll be able to, on your blog post, you'll be able to make sure that the full case study is available and that you can link it back to your blog post so that any visitor who is very detail oriented can go back and read the entire case study if they would like to, or they can just take a look at the quote. So these are very effective. So I want to show you a couple of examples, different ways that you can use a case study. This particular example is from a case study. It's from a survey, a 2019 University of Michigan survey, and it's talking about the mental and physical health issues tied to social isolation as well as loneliness. And we all know, we bring this up with our prospects all the time. This particular study found that more than a third of adults age 50 to 80 say they feel lonely, and 2 out of 5 adults that live in their home, 60% of those people say they feel a lack of companionship and they feel isolated. And this study was done back in 2019 before the pandemic and quarantine requirements. So you can use a survey, you can use a book to reference a case study. You can use articles written by professionals for case studies. A book that comes to mind that I think is a really good way to use for a case study is The Blue Zone. The author of the Blue Zone book, he traveled the country and really wanted to find the common denominators of what led this group of people in specific zones all across the world to be able to live longer. I mean, in their upper 90s into their age 100 and above. And there were a lot of common denominators that he found. It was people who had a core group of friends. They didn't have to be family, but they had a lot of socialization. They were physically active. They had a good nutritional diet, and those components really help them to age successfully. So that's a great case study to use with your prospects. It's really kind of life care communities, life plan communities are a perfect background. I call it the fountain of youth, really, from what was found in the Blue Zone studies. We have all of those, wonderful opportunities to socialize, also wonderful opportunities for good nutrition with all the restaurants, etc. So you can use the different types of case studies in a lot of variety of ways. This particular example is a full case study. So I wanted to show you kind of how to use this. This particular one is the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This study shows that approximately 70% of people over age 65 will, it's not if, they will need long-term care, some degree of long-term care services during their lifetime. Well, this particular study didn't talk about the average length of stay. So in this case study, there were a couple of different references. You can click on the Here location, and it will talk about the average length of stay. And then, of course, on your blog post, because this is a case study, it lists the actual articles where this information from the case study came from. You can go to click on the website, and also on AARP article to get all of the detail. And I love giving related topics, because if most of us are going to need it, we need to know the average stay. Well, what about costs? So this case study actually gives a related article where you can click on and find out the cost of assisted living. So you can use case studies very effectively, and they have a great impact to reinforce the positive reasons that you're sharing that people should consider senior living. Another effective way to use testimonials is through the use of interviews. They are especially effective because they help to get more details from your customers. And most of the time it's going to be a resident or a family member who you're going to interview. And it's great because they're talking about their experience. They're painting that vivid picture in story form in the minds of residents and prospects, their family members or friends. So hearing it from your residents is a wonderful way through an interview to really be able to ask meaningful questions that elicit a story about why your resident or customer chose to move to your community. I would say one of the things I would encourage is that you always prepare when you're doing an interview. Prepare your questions ahead of time, some really good open-ended questions that will allow your resident to tell a very good story from their personal experience. So some of those questions might be, I had an example from a community in West Virginia where they were able to move in during the pandemic. So one question might be, what was the obstacle? How did your senior living team help you move forward with your move in the middle of a crisis situation during, this COVID-19 pandemic? Or another good question might be, what was the obstacle that would have prevented you from moving here? Things like that. Would you recommend the community and why? And, what 3 benefits meant the most to you that drew you to this community? So just ask really good questions. It allows your residents to be prepared to be able to tell a really great story and support, the benefits of living in a retirement community. And last but not least, press reviews are a really, really persuasive way to display a testimonial. And that's because they come from sources who are really professionally qualified to speak on the topic. It is smart, to rely on your good relationships with the media so that you can make sure they are telling positive stories. We know through our experience through this COVID-19 pandemic, we're all at home. We've been on, we watch TV a lot. We get on the internet. Media consumption is up 60% since the quarantine. So this has been a crucial time that it's really important to rely on those relationships you've developed with key media staff in your area so you can make sure that they share the positive information happening in your communities, not just all the negative. It can really change the message that gets out there. So when you think about testimonials and all the people involved, it's really all about who you know and building relationships. So that, let me get back here. I'm sorry, I don't know what I did. Should start my video. Okay, there we go, I'm back. So I will open it up for questions. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. I hope it was helpful. I don't see any questions as of yet. Here's one. Okay. How do you get residents or family members to give you a testimonial? Well, I would say probably the first one, you have to ask. If you don't ask, you're not going to probably get any testimonials. And if you're having trouble with people saying yes, I would recommend that maybe go to a resident council meeting, or if you have residents that are on your finance committee meetings or your board, and ask those residents, I call those your movers and shakers, if they would be willing to give you a testimonial and share the importance of it. That's where I would start. Any other questions? Let's see, I've got one more. How do you get professional influencers to be willing to give you a testimonial? Oh, that's a very good question. I would recommend for the professional influencers, you know, your resident is the one who really has the strong relationship with that professional influencer. So start out with asking the resident if they would mind setting up, right now would probably be a Zoom appointment with the three of you, and then you can get to know them a little bit better and ask if they would share a testimonial for you. Or even if that doesn't work, then you can ask them if you can come and speak to their group. If they're, I know I've gone to financial planners, I've gone to their business and presented over their lunch hour, you know, about senior living, and it's really, really helpful to get them educated. And then just ask for their testimonial if they would be willing to give a testimonial. So great questions. Looking to see if there's any other questions here. I don't think so, not so far. All right, well, I will just give a friendly reminder that we would love to have you fill out the survey. It's really quick, it won't take but maybe a minute or less. And then we will get you the information shortly, coming soon, to let you know when our monthly webinars will begin to roll out. So thank you so much. It was great to have you join us on our webinar today. Take care, everybody.